Hello friends and welcome to Financial Friday. I hope you all had a wonderful week. Let's jump in with the questions. Our first question is from scastle05. Do you have a trick to keeping different budget items separate when they are purchased on the same shopping trip and on the same receipt? For example, if I go grocery shopping at Walmart and decide to pick up some makeup or a book or some other item that would typically come out of fund money, how do I maintain two budgets when I'm scanning a debit card and not using something akin to the envelope system? Hey, so I would actually say that it's easier to pull things from multiple budgets when you're using a debit card instead of the envelope system. This is something I always struggled with when I had envelopes, because while you can separate transactions at any store, it only feels awkward. Cashiers are used to this. You can separate out and say just two purchases, please, and then you can pay for one and then pay for the other. But normally, I know, we're in line, we want to get out of there, we're trying to check things, we're trying to put the bags back in our cart and make sure nothing's scanning up wrong, and it's just a big old hubbub. And it just, sometimes you're just like, here, take my money, let me get out of here. However, when you do this with a debit card, and I guess, there's a receipt there. If you're doing it with it, there's always a receipt. If you're doing it with a debit card, what you're going to do is go back home and you're going to type the amount that you spent into your budget. Yes, if you're doing the system. So how else are you going to keep track of things? So what I do is some very simple math. For instance, in this week's grocery haul, I bought a toaster and some pajamas, not a toaster, a waffle maker and some pajamas at Walmart, and I put them in the same transaction as all of my food. So when I went to put that into my budget, guess what I did? I took the pajamas were $10, the toaster, I didn't buy a toaster. The waffle maker was $7. I didn't include tax in there. You can if you want to get nitpicky. I just let all the tax go to the grocery side. But I took my total, which was, I think, $78. And yeah, right around there, $78, and I subtracted the $17 that I spent on personal items. I put $17 in my personal line item budget. I subtracted that from there, and then all the rest of the money I put into my grocery budget and subtracted it from that. So very simple. All you have to do is some math when you're doing your budget. The trick is to either do it fast or keep your receipt. Because if you just throw out your receipt and you don't keep a hold of it, when you get back and you're looking at your debit transcript, you're like, wait, my grocery budget's $50. Why did I spend $78 at Walmart? A couple of weeks later, if you're doing that, you may not remember that you bought a waffle maker and some pajamas. So do that quickly, keep your receipts, then you can figure out if there's any inconsistency. I do that all the time. It works perfectly, especially since I have it in my budget where I actually list what purchases I've made instead of just subtracting. Some people do their budgets where you start out with $200 or whatever in one budget. Every time you make a purchase, you subtract however much you spent. I used to do that, but then I realized if I didn't know what I was spending, if I didn't have a list, and I have a list off to the side that totals up and then puts it in my budget and subtracts. You guys can see that in my budget sheet. I'm making it sound more complicated than it is. But anyway, if you are putting things from multiple categories into one shopping trip and paying with a debit card, all you have to do is re-separate that when you are reconciling your budget. All right. Linda Wilson says, another excellent video, BG. If I had a long-lost niece, it'd be you. Aw, thanks. Lots of folks seem to be on your case about buying a lawnmower versus the $30 cut. I completely understand your stance. You have to put a price on your sleep, your time, and your sanity. Amen. For now, at least, I think you're approaching this in exactly the right way. 2 questions. 1, do you have a sinking fund for yard sales? And 2, do you claim extra dependents during the year so you get back a large tax return? Hey, and thank you for your support on the lawn thing. Sinking fund for yard sales? Nope. If I'm going to purchase something at a yard sale, it has to come out of my personal money. So that's just, and if you want a sinking fund for yard sales, if you plan on, to do a sinking fund, you'd have to contribute a little bit to a savings account or an envelope every month, I guess, until yard sale season, and then shop out of that, and that's fine. But I would still take that out of your personal money. So say you get $60 a month personal money. It's the middle of winter, so you're not going yard sale shopping right now, but you want to save maybe $10 a month from your personal money, not spend it, and save that for future yard sale purposes. I think that's awesome. I can't go yard sale shopping unless I still have money in my personal budget, is the way I do it. No matter how good the deals, no matter what. If I do not have the money in my personal budget, I don't buy anything, because I consider that personal shopping. Stuff that I buy at yard sales is usually clothes, knickknacks, sometimes kitchen stuff, decor for around the house. I buy a lot of my art and books at yard sales, and there's no other category that would go to. That's purely fun, happy, free spending for me, and so I save it out of my personal money. I'm not going to take away from debt to go yard selling. So you can totally do that. Just make it a reasonable amount and have it come out of your personal account would be my advice. All right, and 2, do I claim extra dependents during the year so I get back a larger tax refund? Abso-freaking-lutely not. The Dave plan says that you should have your tax return be as accurate as possible, because then you're not letting the government keep your money all year interest-free. We want a larger check during the year so that we can consistently give towards our goals and pay off debt and everything like that, instead of loaning the government our money interest-free to get a large chunk all at once. So no, absolutely not. I claim 1 dependent and want to get back as little as possible on my tax return, because that means that I am saving. I've got the right deductions on my form, and I'm getting the most possible money out of each paycheck. And I would recommend that to anybody else. Alrighty. Sarah VB says, when you finish baby step 2, should the amount in baby step 3 take into account the amount already in the emergency fund, or should it be in addition to it? So you're asking if your BS3 money should go in the same account as your $1,000 baby emergency fund. And the answer to that is yes. Your baby emergency fund is only there until you can get your big emergency fund going. Once you have a big emergency fund, you won't need a baby emergency fund anymore. You'll have a big one. So yes, as soon as I'm out of debt, I will start contributing my my BS3 to my BS1 fund, because I won't need it anymore. I'll have a big old chunk of change instead of just a little baby chunk of change. So I hope that answers your question. Jessica Lynn 927 says, when you open a Capital One 360 account, how much do you need to deposit to open it? I had someone comment that they opened one with $10. So I'm guessing basically anything at this point. You can open it with $10. I think it's just any deposit. You can open a Capital One 360 account. So yeah, there you go. Hope that helps. Shout out. Not from a person named Shout Out. I made a note. All right, I wanted to give a shout out to Budget Girl viewer Chandra Denise, who said that she received her tax refund 4 days ago and paid off the last of her debt. Congratulations. That's amazing. I'm so happy for you. Oh, I bet that feels so good. Tell me how good that feels. I'm really looking forward to it. She says, being debt-free hasn't hit me yet, but I'm very excited for the future, and I admire your discipline on the journey. I can't wait to be where you are, Chandra, and I hope that it'll hit you soon and you can bask in your accomplishments. Congratulations. All right, and let me know when you guys become debt-free. I want to celebrate with you guys. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Bay32B says, just curious, BG, what are the various reasons why you prefer an apartment over standalone houses? Thanks. I mentioned this in a previous vlog that I prefer living in apartments instead of houses, and that's 1, I don't have to do lawn care. 2, there's usually a laundry facility on site. 3, there's more hot water because they're usually bigger water heaters since multiple units share them. 4, there are more people around. I like not really being secluded, and I'm not really secluded here, but I have one set of neighbors that are actually people. On the other side of me is like businesses and the police department. And so, I don't know, I kind of like interacting with neighbors that close, and I don't know, I've just always really liked apartment living. That really works for the time of life I'm in right now. I'm sure eventually when I'm ready to like settle down, and be married and all that jazz, I'll want a house. I know I'll want that one day, but for this point of my life, I don't want that many possessions. I don't want that much space to have to take care of. So the next place I move will hopefully be an apartment. Just, excuse me. I like the convenience a lot. First floor though. Second floor apartments are no fun. I'm obviously a person that doesn't care for stairs. All right. Val Mellers says, "Happy birthday. Thanks. I don't know if this has been asked, but if you spend less on something than you allocated in your budget, what do you do with the spare cash?" It depends on which category it is. So if it is a fluctuating category like electrical, gas, either for my house or my car, or water, I save the extra money and I use that into a little fund, and I use that in case a month comes and my bill's specifically high, like really high, higher than I budgeted for, so I don't have to dip into debt. If it is for a category that is not really a fluctuating thing, if it's something that comes every single month, like groceries or entertainment or restaurant, I take anything extra and I put it towards debt. Now, I'm not saying this is the way that you have to do things. I am saying that it motivates me to spend less in categories like that, because every penny I'm not using, every penny I don't need, I get to use to further my goals. And that's really, really cool. And I had a online submitted question from a woman named B. I'm going to call her that. And she says, "Have you ever had a habit that you love to do but had to quit because you couldn't financially afford it, or because you couldn't budget for it?" I have a habit that I love, and when going over a budget, I realized we couldn't afford it anymore, and that I'm going to have to give it up for the sake of my family and our budget. If you've experienced something like this, how did you do it? How did you beat your habit? Was it easy or hard? Do you have any tips or advice on breaking a habit to save your budget? Thank you so much. That's something hard to face. And I commend you for looking at your budget and realizing that this is something that your family can't afford right now, and that you're willing to put your family first. And this isn't going to be super easy for you, but I will tell you about some personal experiences that I've been through, that I've been able to kind of curb that negative feeling going along with having to give that up. I used to play roller derby, which is a very expensive hobby. And I knew that when I moved down to Louisiana and I was going to have to get serious about my budget, I wasn't going to be able to afford it anymore. There's all the gear, all the equipment, the clothes. I mean, you go through tights and leggings like for a game or something. There was a lot of travel expenses. Sometimes we had to stay in hotels. We'd eat out a lot. You go out to bars after, and you go drinking and you eat pizza, and you do a lot of things as a team, and it's a lot of money. And as much as I enjoyed that, and as much as I loved it, I couldn't afford it. I knew when I got serious about my budget, I wasn't going to be able to do that. I actually had to give that up before I moved to Louisiana because I lost my job, and there was no way I could do that on unemployment. And it wasn't like a big, I can't afford this anymore, I'm leaving. It was time. I had done it for 3 years, and it was really catching up to my body. We were on an off season when I lost my job, and I just knew I couldn't go back. So, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to do it again until I'm debt free, at least, if I ever do it again. It was an expensive hobby, and I really enjoyed it. I love the friendships that I made. I still have a lot of roller derby friends, but it was too expensive, and that just wasn't going to happen. The time and the energy and the money it took wasn't worth it. Now, that was something that was a little easier to give up because there were all the negative connotations with it, the bruises, the pain, but there are other things that I've given up that have been just a little bit harder of a pill to swallow. as I'm budgeting. I used to buy a lot of books. A lot of books. Probably about $100 a month. And I don't know why I thought I could afford this. But I'd go out and buy, I'd be caught up in a lot of series, and I had to have the brand new book the moment it came out. And of course, when a brand new book comes out, it's only available in hardcover, so you're spending $25 a bookish. As soon as I made my first budget, I realized that wasn't going to happen anymore at all. I switched completely to the library and garage sales. If I find a book at like a garage sale, $1 is my maximum I will spend on a book. That's it. Other than that, free audiobooks on YouTube. The libraries in Louisiana, it was a little easier because they had an amazing interlibrary loan system that could get you anything. You just had to learn to be patient. And so I wouldn't necessarily get the newest book in a series I was reading for 6 months, but that's something you have to trade. Same thing with eating out. I used to eat out constantly. Not only was it horribly unhealthy, but I just couldn't afford it. And so these weren't all changes that I made in my very first budget. I had to whittle down as I started making progress, and I started deciding that some things were more important than others. So some things you can make a pretty easy change with. You know, I can find new recipes and get excited about cooking them at home instead of eating out. And I can invite people over instead of all going out to eat. That was a pretty simple change. Going to the library instead of purchasing books was a pretty simple change. Just not doing expensive things like taking exercise classes or roller derby, because I used to take Taekwondo, and I used to belong to a gym that I paid $50 a month to. I started realizing as I made those extra monthly payments how much of a difference that would make if I could cut a little bit in this category or cut this out completely. So you just, and it seems like you're doing the same thing, B, that you're prioritizing your family over this. Now, if there's something similar, you didn't tell me what your hobby was, but if there's a way you could do this cheaper, or if there's something somewhat similar that you could do to replace this hobby with, that would be an ideal way to kind of segue yourself away from it. And remember that this isn't something that's forever. You guys aren't going to be in debt forever. None of you are. Hopefully, I mean, good Lord, no. Not if you're watching videos like these. Not if you're on a plan. We're all trying to get out of this together. We're all chipping away at it. We're working at it. I'm going to be able to take sports classes again. There's a pottery class here in Mena, and I love doing pottery in college, that I almost spent $80 on. And it's just not worth it right now. And it's not that I am depriving myself. The classes were on Tuesday night, so I'd have to miss them twice a month for quorum court and city council anyway. But even so, I'm going to be able to do that one day. I'm going to be able to do that in a couple of years. And I'll be able to take whatever kind of class I want. I'll have the money to do it. But for right now, the motivation is watching that debt number go down. That one that I put in the title of every single video, every single month, when I get to take a huge chunk off of that and roll it down, I get a little bit more inspired, and every single sacrifice that I make is worth it. Because at $50 a month for the gym, I don't know how long ago I cut that, but every single month since then, that $50 a month has been going towards my debt. And when you do that with so many things, it just builds up into this giant steamroller. And it's worth it. It is. So I guess it's kind of about refocusing, and you have to choose your priorities. For me, exercise classes aren't as important anymore. Roller derby isn't as important anymore. Buying books new instead of having to wait 6 months for them isn't as important anymore. And neither is eating out. You can cut back on things at first, because I would never ever tell you to cut, like with your first or second budget, all of a sudden to cut all of the fun and joy out of your life. I'm not that person. I have a restaurant budget. I have a vacation sinking fund. I have little things that I really enjoy doing that aren't that expensive, but that I look forward to. And I have goals too. Like when I hit $10,000, I'm buying a Roomba. That was set into place at $33,000 in debt. I hate vacuuming. I'm going to buy myself a dang Roomba. I'm going to spend $300 on a Roomba or some sort of off-brand of Roomba to do my stinking floors when I get below $10,000. So maybe if you can set this up for yourself as some sort of reward system, or if you could do it, maybe if it's say a class or something like that that you're spending $100 on a week, maybe you could do something like that once a month for now and see if you can still get joy out of it that way, or maybe you can replace it with something. I don't want you guys to take all the joy out of your life. I don't want to look back on my 20s and be like, she ate rice and beans every single night of the week. She watched paint dry. She never looked at her friends. She never spent money on curtains or art because she was so focused on getting out of debt that she just wiped out 3 or 4 or 5 years of her life and didn't do anything, and she just wasted them. That would be a travesty. I want you guys to have fun. I want me to have fun. But if we do it in moderation, and if we have a plan, and if we really ask ourselves, what is worth spending money on, and what would we be more satisfied replacing with freedom, the freedom that comes with paying off our debt, I think we can make better choices. So that was a long explanation, and this is a slightly short Financial Friday video because you guys didn't ask that many questions this week. I was all caught up. What happened? Where were you guys? Were you over here? What about here? Hello, where were you guys? You had no more questions for me? You should. Questions. Come on. You can do it. So ask your questions below, because I don't have any right now. I'm all out. This is how many y'all wrote this week. Look at that. That's pitiful. So ask your questions below to keep our Financial Friday going. I think we're in our 15th week. That doesn't suck. And I love to talk to you guys about life and money and what's worth it. So I hope I didn't go on too long of a ramble there, but I thought that was an interesting topic to discuss because that's something we all go through, is what's worth keeping and what's not worth sacrificing a single more day of being in debt for. All right, I will see you guys later. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and week, and I will see you on Monday. Bye.